Welcome back to Jimbo's Barbecue Hacienda. Simple, crowd-pleasing recipes for your grill. I'm Jim Haas. Thanks for hanging out once again. Today, we're going to do smoked St. Louis-style pork spare ribs. Here we go.
Oh yeah!
Okay, things we're going to need for this: a rack of St. Louis-style spare ribs, seasoning or rub of your choice. I'm going to keep it real simple on seasoning on this, so I'm just going to use a salt, pepper, garlic blend. I'm going to use yellow mustard as a binder. We're going to want some honey, some brown sugar, some butter, and some barbecue sauce, and apple cider vinegar in a spritzer bottle. I think that's all we need. Let's roll. Remove the ribs from the packaging and pat dry. There's probably going to be some trimming to do. Ultimately, we want a nice rectangular shaped rack of ribs. On the bone side of pork spare ribs, there's usually going to be this extra flap that's hanging off. I'm sure there's a technical term for it, but we're just going to call it an extra flap. We just want to cut that off and create one flat surface. Check the edges of the rack. Again, there might be some excess hanging off the sides. We just want to trim that up and have a nice straight edge. On the top side of the rack, or what we'll call the meat side, same process applies. Trim off any excess fat. In many cases with pork spare rib racks, you might find some extra meat and smaller ribs hanging off of one side. Those will probably just end up burning, so I'm going to cut those off as well, leaving us with a nice squared end. Flipping it over so the bone side is facing up once again, we want to remove the membrane. In some cases, a butcher might have already removed it for you, and sometimes the membrane is so thin it's almost impossible to remove. If that be the case, just be sure to score the bone side of the rib rack with a sharp knife. Usually you'll be able to lift up a corner of the membrane with a knife to get it started. A paper towel may help with this process to grip the membrane and peel it off in one piece. In this case, two pieces. Now we're just going to go back and check both sides for any excess fat that may have been overlooked. This rack is looking pretty good. Let's start seasoning. Lately I've been using yellow mustard as a binder for all my pork and poultry recipes. The mustard itself will burn off completely, leaving behind no aftertaste. There's also a theory out there that its acidic value helps to break down tissue and tenderize meat during the cooking process. Cover all sides of the rib rack, then with a seasoning or rub of your choice, coat generously on one side. Let that sit up for 15 to 20 minutes while the seasoning adheres, then flip and season the other side. With all that excess seasoning on your table or your cutting board, be sure you get the edges of your rib rack. Let the seasoning set up and do its thing while we fire up the smoker. This recipe will apply to any style of smoker, whether you prefer electric, gas, pellet, whatever you got. If you've seen my past smoking videos, you know I prefer the charcoal method. I really like using this Blaze Kamado with large lump charcoal and apple wood chunks. I use a heat deflector on the center grate, which then really transforms this thing into a great and efficient charcoal smoker. Just wanted to throw this clip in for good measure. Never in my life have I been able to open a charcoal bag and remove the string with one fluent motion. This is a milestone, and I had to share. Okay, back to the business at hand. For this first phase of the cook, we want to dial the smoker in at 225 degrees Fahrenheit. When your temperature is dialed in, place the rib rack on the smoker, meat side up. Set your timer for 3 hours for phase 1. During this phase, you want to give the ribs a spritz with apple cider vinegar every 30 to 40 minutes. And now, we wait. Y'all know Dweezil, the sous chef? Yeah, he's smelling something good in the yard. All right, 3 hours in, let's start phase 2. We're going to wrap our ribs. Place some pads of butter, brown sugar, and honey over 2 sheets of heavy-duty aluminum foil. I'm using 2 sheets because I'm going to be reusing this foil quite a bit throughout the rest of this smoke, and I don't want anything ripping through the edges. Carefully remove the rib rack from the smoker and lay it meat side down on the foil. Put a little honey, butter, and brown sugar on the bone side of the rib rack. Wrap the ribs tight and in such a way ensuring no liquid will leak out. Bump the smoker temperature up to 250 degrees Fahrenheit and place the wrapped ribs back on the smoker, bone side up this time. Set your timer for an hour and a half. And again, we wait.
Absolutely zero chance of rain in the forecast today. And here we are. Luckily, I have the trusty umbrella. We'll save this smoke one way or another.
And just like that, an hour and a half has flown by. We are ready for phase 3. Carefully remove the wrapped ribs from the smoker and slowly unwrap them. The foil is going to contain a lot of hot liquid. Be careful not to spill any. I'm going to set this foil with the liquid in it aside and use this to wrap the ribs to let them rest after this last phase of cooking. In the meantime, bump the temperature of the smoker up to 275 degrees Fahrenheit for this phase. Place the rack of ribs back on the smoker, meat side up, and baste the top with barbecue sauce. Set your timer for 45 minutes. We're almost there. Okay, after a total cook time now of about 5 hours and 15 minutes, we're ready to pull these ribs off and let them rest. I'm going to loosely wrap them in the foil that contains all that juicy goodness from the last phase of cooking and let them rest for 15 minutes. All right, let's get into it. Very carefully, I'm going to unwrap this because I know there's a lot of juice going on. Oh yeah, look at the color. Everything about this, this has got to be great. It's got to be great. That's all I can say. It's got to be great. All right, we're going to flip these upside down so we can very easily see where the bones are. Now I know normally, something like St. Louis style spare ribs normally aren't as fall off the bone per se as like a baby back. It's not to say they're not going to be tender. I can tell you right now, these are as tender as can be. And in fact, some of these are falling off the bone. I'll be honest with you, this is the first time I have done spare ribs. I have done quite a few baby backs. I actually put it out on social media a week or two ago about I want to smoke some ribs. What should I do? Baby backs did get the highest amount of votes, but I had done, like I said, a number of baby back recipes and videos and cooked baby backs a ton of times. So I went with the second runner-up, which was, well, I guess the first runner-up, second place as far as rib votes, St. Louis style. And moment of truth. So I'm just going to go for one of the center ribs that was probably the least tender as far as knife feel as I was cutting through them. We got to do the juicy test, right? Oh boy. Sweet, savory, smoky. It's everything you want in smoked ribs. It's everything. It's got it all. It releases from the bone very easily, effortlessly. This has it all. I love it. My new favorite ribs. This is what I'm doing from now on when I'm doing ribs. There you go, Jimbo's Barbecue Hacienda. Thanks for hanging out. More simple, crowd-pleasing recipes coming your way real soon. Life is short. Eat well and enjoy yourself. And always listen to good music. And always eat good ribs. St. Louis style pork spare ribs. How about that? Squeezy juicy. Holy jeez, man. I'm never going back. That's it. See you next time. Subscribe to the channel. Bye-bye.